Hello again, everyone. It's Rich Siegel back with you with the news, another episode of the news according to me. I'm sitting in my office in Kingston, New York again, and today's date is March the 10th, 2021. And before I start talking, I want to give a little plug to my daughter's patented web page and business. There it is. And is that allowed? I don't know, but here we go. Today's podcast, I have 4 points I want to talk about. The first one will be in regard to what will the first one be about? In regard to Major League Baseball and voting rights. Of course, voting rights. And what they did in Atlanta, Georgia, switching the Major League Baseball game. That will be one. Two, we'll be talking about the new infrastructure package, $2.3 trillion still in front of Congress that they are working on and seeing what direction they're going to go on that. Third thing is going to be back to immigration and our border crisis. And the fourth thing is our governor in New York, Mario Cuomo, and an update on where we are in New York. Before we get started, I'm going to start where I'll also end, is talking about I had a little trip to Florida and the differences and the dichotomy in the attitude and atmospheres and rules and regulations in regard to COVID. In Florida, having spent 5 days there, nobody one time told me to pull my mask up. Nobody told me to back up. Nobody was ever rude to me. The bars were open. The kids were out. There were no curfews. The masks were worn in respectful ways. Social distances was thought about, but not really enforced. And again, not to say whether it's good or bad, it was just a totally different atmosphere, which I enjoyed, that was saying, hey, we're going on with our lives here. Spring break is happening. People are out partying past 11 o'clock. Wow, oh my God. And the governor is not yelling at you and telling you what to do every second with your life. So it was a nice trip. Me and my wife were there 5 days, enjoyed it very much. We were in the poor man's section of Florida, Fort Lauderdale. It was very nice though, and had a very, very good time. Okay, let's get to number one on our agenda today, which is what just happened with Major League Baseball moving the All-Star game from Atlanta, Georgia to Denver, Colorado. Reason why they did was Major League Baseball itself and their sponsors, which included Coca-Cola as a major one, whose headquarters is in Atlanta, Georgia, claiming that when there was a voting bill passed and changed in the state that requires Georgia voters to prove who they are before they vote. In other words, there were some changes made in the regulations you had to do to vote. This was screamed at by Joe Biden, Major League Baseball, that this was racist. These were Jim Crow tactics, that it was trying to prevent people of color from casting votes, and that it was something that needed to be boycotted, the whole entire state and Atlanta, and the All-Star game, because of the racist actions of the state by putting in these different rules now that you have to vote. That you have to prove who you are before you can vote in Atlanta, in a Georgia election. So Major League Baseball, who is building stadiums in China, who is one of the biggest corporate hogs in the country, is making the kind of statement saying that we are protecting the rights of voters, and because Georgia is not, in their opinion, we are moving the baseball game out of there because they are saying you need to prove who you are to vote in Georgia. We are headed in a real tough spot in this country if this is where we're going, because Major League Baseball making that kind of statement is really, really bold. And I'm not saying it's going to end the game or take people away, or some people are going to be the fans are going to be the fans. But this is where we're going. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. When you hear the cries of Jim Crow. Jim Crow were laws that were put in at the turn of the century to try to prevent the black. They were real and they were wrong. But to compare this to Jim Crow is, to me, race baiting. It is destructive. It is going more toward dividing us than uniting us. No question in my mind. And really that is the theme. How do you think you're going to unite us when Georgia is just saying we want to make it fair. We want to make it right. We want to try to make it as less fraud as possible. And when they respond, you can't get a drink of water if you're standing on line. I mean, this is the rhetoric you hear coming from the people who are defending Major League Baseball from moving. And one of the biggest defenders is the President of the United States, Joe Biden, who says, yeah, you can't get a drink online. He's promoting racism. He's instigating racism by saying these type of things, that these draconian Jim Crow laws that Georgia's trying to pass, they are not that at all. But it is part of the idea that we want to let anybody vote whether they can prove who they are or not. What is wrong with saying I have to show ID when I got my vaccine, I just flew on a plane, I go into the pharmacy to buy Claritin, I have to show them my ID. But the Democrats want it, or a large majority of them, because it's to their advantage, want it to be, no, you don't have to show a license to vote. We just, we want to make it as easy as we can. And I want to make it as easy as we can to vote too. I want every American citizen to have an equal opportunity to vote, have plenty of time. If you're not going to be here, absentee ballots are fine. The only thing I say is prove who you are, and let's end the election on election day. Okay? Let's count the votes that night, not 3 days after, not the next day, not wait for 2 million people who are in boxes that didn't show identification are coming in there. Now, you can say, oh, you're leading into the big lie. I am not. I am talking directly about Major League Baseball making a statement that Georgia law is trying to say it's not trying, that's what they're saying. You have to show proof that you are who you are. And Major League Baseball is saying that's Jim Crow, that's racist, and that they're trying to restrict the vote. Okay, that's where we are. You do what you want with Major League Baseball. You go to their games in China, and you go to their game, you buy their merchandising, and why they treat you like you're a dummy, and that they are going to dictate to you how things should be. And they are going to take a game away that generated millions of dollars to the city of Atlanta and the workers in Atlanta and the businesses in Atlanta because they're not unhappy with a voting law that was passed in Georgia. That's where we're at. And Coca-Cola is going right along with them as one of the big sponsors there. So, okay, enough said about that. Let's move on to the $2.3 trillion infrastructure. We're having now the next, forget it. Not only do you not, a lot of again, I'm not into Republican, Democrat. I really am not. But it is the Democrats right now, that's where they are, or the leaders of the Democratic Party. I don't have much use for the Republicans or the Democrats. So it's not when I always say with the Democrats, but I happen to disagree with the Democrats' idea of what they're doing in Atlanta and in Georgia. And I also disagree when they try to change the name of the infrastructure, of the definition of what infrastructure is. And use the bait and switch that, yeah, we need an infrastructure deal, which everybody wants. Everybody. That's what I mean. Republicans, me, you, we all want to fix. We all need our city roads, our federal roads, our bridges, the airports, the waterways, the sewer systems, all the things that make us live our daily lives with convenience and travel with ease. Needs to be redone. It hasn't been done since the 50s. There's a lot of work to be done out there. But when you put a bill in front of me that says $2.3 trillion for infrastructure, and only 5 to 10% of it is actually doing any of those things that relate to infrastructure, and an idiot like Kirsten Gillibrand is trying to change the definition of infrastructure by saying, well, yeah, of course there's child care in there and rebuilding hospitals and and for home care in there. That's part of the So if we want to change definitions, what is an infrastructure? So that's going to make it, to me, that's bait and switch, not even close, and changing definitions of a word, infrastructure. Yes, do I want infrastructure? 100% I want infrastructure. I'm ready to pay. We're going to go further into debt. But we should go at least 50% into debt on infrastructure and then 50% on all their other crap. Not 5 and 95, not 10 and 90. And that's what it is. Infrastructure 10%, home care, health care, rebuild hospitals, God knows what else to their dream, Green New Deal stuff in there. It goes on and on and on, that they will somehow try to tie to infrastructure by changing semantics or by changing conception and parallels and what correlates with what. So, it's sad in a lot of ways, and I don't know whether this bill will pass or not. Again, this ties into so many complicated issues. If it's not going to be able to pass, then will they do the filibuster? Where Manchin stands as the 50th kind of Democrat, that whether he'll vote for it and then it'll be 51-50 and then there will be filibusters. The infrastructure bill is going to put all of this to a test. Keep an eye on it is what I'm saying. And do yourself a favor. Look at it. If you don't believe me, I'm one source of information who gets his sources from all over the place and all different sources and hears opposites and tries to make sense myself by looking, okay, what does it? Is it true? And I have looked at the bill and I have looked at what the percentages are, and it is true that the only way you can say this is really an infrastructure bill is if you want to start counting in all these other things and change the definition of infrastructure. Okay? So, bottom line, I agree. Let's rebuild our roads. Let's rebuild our highways. Let's rebuild our airports. Let's spend as much money as it is to get us moving into this century and forward, because we are behind very much in all of these things in terms of where we should be in 2021. Okay. Third, the border and immigration and what's going on down there, and what we can do about it and what we're going to do about it going forward. You tell me, is the situation getting any better in your eyes? Is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and his administration doing a good job down at the border? Are the kids who are down there not getting dropped off by coyotes and not in cages and not in unlivable conditions? Everything I see on the television, mostly on Fox, because CNN doesn't show too much of it. Again, you don't see it too many places, but it's there. And a lot of politicians have been down there and have seen it and brought back the footage. And the idea that our government is saying media can't get in and see some of these places, and then when you do see inside and you see the abuse, and it is bad, the rape, the amount of people that are coming into this country bringing COVID, the amount of people that are being dropped off in different cities. If that's okay with you, fine. It's not with me. It shouldn't be. I am all for immigration, but we have to tighten the border. Maybe the wall is a very good idea to start. Maybe we need more ICE. We need more protection and long-term planning, which we didn't do. And the idea that now we want to send money to the triangle countries that are coming into the United States to make it better for them, that people will want to stay if we give them money. Again, the idea of throwing money at people is a democratic idea. Throw money at them, and then they'll stay in that country if you give them money. They're just coming here for the money. So it's a whole change in cultures to keep these people want. Of course you want to come to America, especially when you have a president of America saying, come on in and we'll give you free everything. And plus, we'll get to this later. If you're in New York, we'll give you a check for $15,000. Who down in Honduras would not be looking to come up here and get some of the action? It's ludicrous. And, the story of, we're a global world now and we need to be the caretakers of all. We can discuss that on a different level, but this is specifically about the southern border, about the travesty and tragedies that are going on right now at that border, where kids are being dropped over fences. I've seen it, okay? I watched it, where kids are being sent back or are being put in cages, whatever the definition of that is now being. They're not really cages, but they'll be put in a place that should have maybe about 50 people in it, and there's 500 people in it. the disease that's going around, the abuse that is definitely happened. Who's investing? Who's looking at it? Who's doing anything to change it? We have a vice president and a president who haven't even been to the border. That didn't even want to call it a crisis. So how are they doing with the border? Really, out of 100, I try to grade A to F. Out of 100, I give Biden and Harris administration a 0 for what they've done at the border. And that's not even mentioned in the T word. And to blame him is what they do subtly is egregious and a flat out lie. They are incompetent on the border situation and better get their asses in gear because there's a disaster on hand down there. And we down there being, the parts of the Texas border, parts of the California border, wherever you want to talk about it. The amount of children that are dying, literally, the amount of children that are being raped, and in a subtle way, we promoted it, and our president did invite them in. You can slice it any way you want. You run back and hear the tapes. If we were a big production, I could show you tapes of Biden during his campaign going, yes, we should give the immigrants free health care. Yes, we welcome them to our border. Yes, we are going to expedite getting them in as fast as we can. Now, of course, when he's got a disaster on his hands, he's changing his tune a little bit, but he ain't doing anything. So good luck with that. Lastly, let's get to my favorite subject, our glorious governor, Mario Cuomo. His latest thing now is that he's approved a bill. We're going to give $15,000 to illegal immigrants, all of them, to get through the COVID times and get through the tough times. And this is really stunning to me. If you're for that, I don't know what to say. Or maybe to somebody write in and tell me I'm saying it wrong. But what I'm reading in the Middletown Record, in the New York Times, and in the New York Post, that the plan is to give all illegal immigrants in this country, non-citizens, $15,000. So, and how do they prove that whatever? I don't have any identification, so give me $15,000. Can I go up there and get it? I don't get how that's going to work. These are people that don't have driver's license. These are people who aren't registered voters. These are people who don't have proof that they are who they are because they're not citizens of this country. So we're going to give him $15,000. I'd like to see how that's going to work. All right, that's just the latest thing with this guy, Cuomo. I think we've had the 10th, 11th. How many do we need, Me Too people? Hey, how many do we need? 150? Judge Kavanaugh, we needed one woman from 35 years ago who said she was abused at a party, not raped, but put in a position on a bed and had things done and been uncomfortable, which should not happen, 35 years ago at a high school party. Okay, fine. And they had hearings on it, and they brought in the witnesses, and they tried everything they could to run him out of that job based on that. We have a governor of a state, a sitting governor in his third term, who's had 10 women on the job saying that he groped them, molested them, and pulled them in tight and made them feel uncomfortable right in his office and in his house, and it was a consistent pattern of behavior. And what's happening? Nothing. I don't hear any screaming, well, maybe we'll have an investigation. We don't have enough proof yet. I mean, I'm not saying convict the guy. I don't care if 100 people can. But somebody should be standing up going, whoa, some Democrats, I mean. Some people who were screaming about Kavanaugh's one accuser. Where are they? Really, look in the mirror and say, aren't you ashamed of yourself that you're not going, Cuomo's got to go? I mean, he got to go. And yet you're reading his books, you're listening, oh yeah, well, he soothed me through the coronavirus. He conned you. He tricked you. You're a sheep if you listen to that man. You are a sheep if you listen to that man. I say that and I mean it. He lied to you. He conned you. He killed 15,000 elderly people and never admitted it and took zero responsibility for it. He groped and abused women throughout his career. There's proof, and they have come forward and said it. He is a bully. And yet he still sits in there as the governor of New York and acts like a pompous jerk and writes books about what great leadership he has and made $4 million on it. When does the corruption and abuse stop? When is it okay? I mean, I don't care who else it was. Again, this is the Democratic Republican thing, but Cuomo's a Democrat. How long are you going to protect this guy? It's absolutely mind-boggling to me, and I am going to keep dwelling on it, and I am going to keep being a voice about it until that guy is gone, because it's pathetic. And I don't care if he goes to jail, and I don't care what he does, but I don't want to see his face anymore. I don't want to listen to his mouth. I don't want to listen to his arrogance, and I don't want to listen to him tell me one thing what to do, because I'm not listening to a word he said. And if you are, good for you. Sorry, getting a little, maybe a little over the top with that, but I speak from the heart. I speak what I see. I speak what it appears to me to be. And I think with Cuomo, enough's enough. This guy's such a narcissist, he can't say, hey, I'll go away, just send me to an island and that's it. He thinks he's going to get out of this. Well, good luck. We're going to find out. And if he does, what kind of country are we living in after all? All right, I think I beat him up hard enough. I think you get an idea of where we're headed. We've got to see improvement at the borders. We've got to have some. We got to get infrastructure done. I'm all for it. Let's compromise. Let's get fair. Let's do it. Let's bind. But I'm trying to get to where we're binding, but I've got to see some action from the other side, and I see not much. I don't see much even listening. I don't see any conceding of anything. I don't see any, let's get to the middle here. Let's make this infrastructure bill 40-50. Let's get down to the border and straighten it up. Maybe Trump had some good ideas. Maybe, that's not allowed to be said just to solve problems? I'm still begging. Let's try to do some things that I can come on here and say, wow, now there you go. We're starting to try to work together both ways. So far, we're now 2 months in and zero progress. So we'll keep an open mind. We'll keep listening. We'll keep hearing. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.